smashing. Let's go. Hey guys, it's Mythic Mike, and we're joined here with POWRDRAGN today. My God, are we excited to have him. We actually recorded a video on his channel, check it out, where we went through all of the best reprints from Foundations. And today, what we're going to do on this channel is go through all the new cards of Foundations. How did I win that coin flip? I don't know.
I think we honestly just seeing how we picked differently for our actual reprints. I have a feeling we're going to have some good stuff to talk about here with the new cards too.
Absolutely. And if you don't, I'm sure you all know POWRDRAGN, but if you don't, check out his channel. Amazing best of one stuff. Probably the most fun decks you'll ever see. And great commentary, of course.
I don't know about the most fun. There's a lot of good competition out there right now, but we try. I tell people we've literally done at least one video a day. I think the average for me is like, if I look at the number, it's like 1.3-ish a day for 4.5 years. So if you want content, come check it out.
Man, I was doing a deck a day for 6 months. And then, to be honest, we're probably a deck a day at the new set and then a deck every other day. But, we're trying to keep up. Let's get into these cards, though, guys. I hope you all are excited. I know some people were saying, oh, it's all reprints. Well, guess what? It is not all reprints. At least half of them are new cards, and they have some absolutely wild ones. We are not necessarily going through the best ones, just the ones we're most excited about.
Yeah. Let's just talk about our favorite stuff. Like we've done and we've seen videos. Hell, I've had some on my channel where we're doing like overrated, underrated, whatever. But this is just like, what do we like?
All right. I will let you go first and take us away.
All right. I honestly, just looking through the set, immediately I saw there was a bunch of cats. So I'm like, I'm picking a cat for my white card. And it's Arabo the First Fang. This is 2 colors and a white for a 2/2 cat avatar. It's a legend. And your other cats get +1/+1. And then when this card or another non-token cat enters, create a 1/1 cat creature token. Like, there's just infinite amounts of value on this card. First off, you're paying 3 mana to get 2 2/2s, right? Because you get a 2/2 and then you get a 1/1 that's also getting a +1/+1. So you get 4 power for 3 mana, already good. And then every future creature you play is basically getting extra 2/2. Like, I have a hard time not playing this card in a cat deck. The only thing slowing it down is that it's legendary. So you don't want 4 of these, but 2 or 3 of them definitely going to make the cut. And there's a lot of quality cats to play with, not to mention a Johnny being reprinted, among other things. Like, there's a lot going on with this card to make it pretty devastating without having to really overcommit to the battlefield, which I also like. Like, this plus 1 or 2 other creatures, you're already going to have a full battlefield and you can just sit on your other cards till something happens.
Yeah, what a great pick. We actually went through each other's cards to make sure we didn't have any duplicates. We had 0 duplicates, but this was one that I picked and then switched it out because my God, we almost did have a duplicate apparently, because this is such a fun card. I mean, there's already green cats that are interesting, but mono white cats are going to be relatively good. I mean, I think they'll be the new bunnies to some degree. They've got that 5 mana spell that gets cheaper if you have for each cat out that gives all your creatures +2/+2 at instant speed. And this card that you picked is just going to enable that strategy like crazy. I mean, you can go so wide with cats. It's going to be unbelievable. Will they be standard playable at the top level? You know what? I'm saying yes. Let's go.
I mean, the fact that this, and because I actually saw Regal Caracal first when I was going through the list, and I'm like, wait, so now I have another thing that makes cats, and then this thing pumps cats, and then I can play these together. So the Regal Caracal makes an additional cat, but is also like too much happening, honestly. Like, this should be a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, and Felidar Retreat. Check out the other channel. We may or may not have discussed it as a good reprint. That makes cats these days. So we just have so many ways to get the cats going, and this is a super fun Lord.
Yeah. So what do you got here in the white slot?
Oh, man, I had to. I've already brewed like 3 different versions of this deck. It is called Heir Apparent, and it is the new card. My God, it's the new one of these cards where it says a deck can have any number of cards named Heir Apparent. a 2 mana Rabbit Noble common 2/2. And when this creature enters, create a number of 1/1 White Rabbit creature tokens equal to the number of other creatures you control named Heir Apparent. So the first one's just a 2/2, although it is a rabbit. We have plenty of things to buff rabbits. And then the second one makes a 1/1. The third one will make 2/1/1s. So honestly, we have a lot of good triggers for things entering the battlefield, especially small creatures. We got Impact Tremors, which does 1 damage whenever a creature enters. And that could be a fun way. And you can also just go rabbits with green-white rabbits and try to focus on, buffing your tokens and rabbits and see how it goes. But honestly, that's not how we're doing it. We're just reanimating our rabbits because there's a lot of fun things to do. There's a new card called Rays of the Past, 4 mana sorcery. Return all creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that is interesting. If you have 5 rabbits, you bring back all of them. It count in your graveyard. It counts them all at the same time.
Yeah.
And you make 25 1/1s, right? 25 1/1s, I believe, is how that
Yeah,
works.
because they all see each other. So yeah, that's a pile.
Yeah, and you do Bitter Triumph, but we're not doing that because that's too jank. We like to merge jank with good. So what we're doing is Dewdrop Cure, which is the card that's been around, which is the 3 mana version that says return up to 2 target creatures, each with mana value 2 or less from the graveyard of the battlefield, or you can return 3 if you gift them a card. So we're going to get 3 of these back. That is 3 2/2s and 9 1/1s. So that is still 15 damage. We do a little Bitter Triumph action. I think that could do it. You could also just throw like 1 to 2 Dewdrop Cures in your Bunnies deck version of this, as like they're going to try to kill these, and then it will just be a hilarious turn 3 or turn 4. So look, will it be the best? I don't know, but I think it has a better chance than, was it Ooze, the 3 mana?
Oh yeah, that thing
That
where
one.
like the 3 mana and it counts for each one in the graveyard or exile. Yeah, that thing. Oh my
Look,
god.
I tried that thing, and that thing was
Slime
terrible.
Against Humanity, I think is what, something like that.
That is.
Yeah, dude, I tried. Literally, I think I added it up at one point over the course of like 3 weeks. I think I for real spent like 15 hours trying to make that work, like a couple hours a day or whatever, and just everything was bad about it. Like, and it's the only one of that type of card that I have not been able to find something significantly playable. Right, the
Yeah.
red one with the damage was good. The rats were obviously good. The blue one that you mill people with was good. Like, for whatever reason, just couldn't make it work. But this at least has potential, right? It doesn't even have to be great. Like, it's a fun card, right? On top of it. And the name is awesome on this. And I think for people who don't know, anytime you see these types of cards, you can have like infinite numbers of them in your deck, they are always worth value. So if you open these at the pre-release or you open some out of your booster boxes, don't throw them away with your commons. These are always going to be worth something, even if it's just like a couple of dollars. Like, historically, those cards, even like the Relentless Rants that have been reprinted multiple times, whatever, it's still worth like a couple bucks. Like, they're always worth something because people that play these don't just want 1 or 2, they want like 10 of them or 16 of them, right? They want a lot. So yeah, this card, definitely a cool one to include. Kind of feels a little bit different than some other stuff in Foundations, but I think that's cool that you still have these build around cards in here among all this other just value stuff.
Yeah, and even the 1/1s they make are rabbits. I can't stop selling this card because you play that 2 mana 2/3 Rabbit Lord that gives rabbits and tokens, and now this is a 3/3 all the one like it. I think this might be able to put out some damage. You draw cards off creatures with power 2 or less entering the battlefield. There's a bunch of things that do that off tokens entering the battlefield. Caretaker's Talent, like you said. I mean, we'll see, but it's a very enticing trap. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, man. All right. So what does that leave us at? We're at black cards now, huh? All right. This one, I had a hard time picking here. Like, I went back and forth between 2 cards, and I settled on Zul Ashur Lich Lord. This one, it's a colorless and a black for a 2/2. It has ward, pay 2 life, so it's already good. It has a little bit of protection, which is nice. But you can tap it to cast target zombie creature card from your graveyard this turn. All right, we already know there's a lot of zombie stuff around. People like playing zombies. So this feels like almost an auto include for a couple of copies. The first thing, like I said, Ward, it's a little bit of annoying. You get at least 2 damage out of it. You're probably playing an aggro deck already, so that's good. But the cool part is you get to play a zombie out of your graveyard of your choice, and it doesn't have any other clauses on it. It doesn't get a finality counter. It's not till end of turn. It doesn't have any of this other stuff on it. You just get to play a zombie out of your yard. So you always have access stuff. And a bunch of the zombies, like when this enters play, this thing happens or gives a bonus to something else, or when it dies, this thing happens. So like this is a really cool card. Not even just for standard. I think this is a sweet card for commander players are going to want this if you have zombie decks to just open all types of combo potential. And it's super easy to cast, just being a colorless and a black. Like it's just one of those cards I feel like went under the radar with just like all the stuff in the set when I was going over it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick this one to talk about because I think a lot of people aren't paying attention to this card.
Yeah, I agree. I think the ward is the thing that potentially makes it playable because when they waste a spell and lose 2 life, I mean, we all know in against aggro decks, which zombie decks usually are, that 2 life can really go a long way. Are there the best zombies right now? Probably not, but Midnight Reaper is a zombie, guys. So remember that. There's a 1 mana 2/2 zombie, which is always necessary for you need your 1 mana 2/2
Yep.
in tribal decks to make them very good. Also, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I've gone off the rails because I've made an Insidious Roots deck with this card already with some
Yeah.
zombies. We're trying Insidious Zombies. Now, will it be good or will I even show it? I don't know, but I have crafted it. And this is a very integral piece, and we play Tyvar in it, which I never play Tyvar, but it could be very fun.
Yeah, that's a good spot for this. Like just guaranteeing you can get something out of the graveyard every turn and it's a solid body probably. Like yeah, there's a lot to do with this type of card. It's actually really neat. And again, like I said, it's just there's so much stuff in the set. I feel like this type of card is a card that you just kind of overlook and go like, "All right, it's just some quirky zombie." But once you start thinking about the applications, yeah, there's a lot that opens up with this thing. So what do you have? Because like it's probably not a zombie.
It is not a zombie, and it's a very controversial one. In fact, I don't even know if it will end up being in my decks, but I have 2 to 3 copies in a variety of my draft decks so far. It is called Gutless Plunderer. It's a limited. It's meant to be a limited card. I'll tell you that. But we're going to put it in standard. It's 3 mana skeleton pirate common 2/2 death touch, and it has raid. When this creature enters, if you attack this turn, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may put one of those cards back on top of your library. Put the rest in your graveyard. I'm kind of wondering why they. I mean, I guess the reason they wouldn't say Surveil 3, I know it's not exactly the same, but it's so close, it feels like, is because they want to make it tied to raid. I don't see what would the power difference be of Surveil 3 in this? Just that you can't stack your top 3,
Yeah,
right?
probably like you only get one of them, but it does function differently because this lets you fill up your graveyard easily and you put the card into your hand as opposed to Surveil just being on top of the library, I
Or no,
guess.
this puts it on top of your
Oh, it
library.
only puts it on top of your library.
Yeah, that believe me,
Not as exciting. Not as exciting. I thought it went into your hand. Nah, there you go. Reading the card explains the card, you know?
there's what, like 400 cards in here, and I'll
Yeah,
tell you,
exactly.
the fact that this doesn't put it in your hand drops the power level a ton. The fact this is not a 33 drops the power level a ton. Why would I even include it? Well, this will have haste with corpses. I
Yeah.
love saying that card because it's one of my favorite. Corpses makes a skeleton pirate. This is a skeleton pirate. We have a 3 mana blue pirate lord that buffs all your pirates. So picture this deck. We're playing pirates, but we're throwing in only as our skeletons this card and corpses because they both make pirates, gives it haste, and this will fill our graveyard, which skeletons want. So, but additionally, just give us what we need at the right time. Look, is it gonna actually make the cut? I don't know, but I love digging in skeleton decks. And the fact that this will be a 4/4 when we get both of our lords out, our skeleton and our pirate lord, and have haste. I mean, I could be just going off the rails, but we're definitely giving this a try.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think this is why it's kind of fun to do these just like favorite card type videos because, if we're just doing top tens or whatever, we wouldn't get to talk about this type of stuff. But this is kind of like cool brewing speculation type thing of just like when we see a card and go, man, this seems fun. We're going to build with this and see what happens. Like, this is what we're doing this for. Just find like cool things that people just may not be talking about. And like this one's actually kind of interesting. I'd be kind of invested in where this ends up sitting for you when it's all done.
Yeah, and death touch. Don't forget the death touch. So, like in a worst case scenario, I mean, we're doing things, and as you know, if you've played skeletons, you always just want to find your corpses, and anything that really helps you get there. Look,
Oh
look,
yeah.
we'll see, we'll see. All right, I think we are on to blue.
uh yeah. I have. Oh, well, this is another one. Like I think in the last video I did the same thing. The blue card I picked is the card that I'm not necessarily going to play a lot of, but it's very interesting to me. Enough that I expect to see a lot of it, and I'll probably die to it, and that's okay too. But Kaito Cunning Infiltrator. This is a colorless blue for a planeswalker, obviously, but it's 3 loyalty. Whenever a creature you control deals damage to a player, you get to put a loyalty counter on Kaito. Kind of a cool thing we haven't seen before on a planeswalker. And then you get to +1 up to 1 target creature you control can't be blocked this turn, and you draw a card, then discard a card. So it's a way to guarantee you can get some loyalty onto Kaito, and you get to filter your hand. You get to -2, make a 2/1 ninja, because that's what Kaito's been known to do at this point. And then -9 if you ever get there. That's forever when you only start with 3, but creature damage. Like you get an emblem that whenever a player, not you, whenever a player casts a spell, you create a 2/1 blue ninja creature token. There's so much happening with this, right? We saw the latest Kaito get a little bit of play, trying to like sneak a creature through, then you flash it in. These can almost be played in the same deck, kind of doing a lot of the same stuff. And even now that we have several cheap flyers that happen to be pirates, we have a couple of ninjas, but they're not particularly super. But we have a lot of flash creatures. We have a lot of cheap flyers. Like, there's a lot of ways this card could pop off and be super annoying. And if it does manage to get to -9, oh boy, that's going to be annoying because it's not even when they cast a non-creature spell, it's just when a player casts a spell, full stop. That's crazy. Like literally anything they do effectively that spins mana to play something from your hand is going to make a 2/1 in addition to it. Like that's a really strong ultimate ability. How often we're going to get there, I don't know. But if it does go off, game's probably over, I would imagine. But man, this one, it's going to be a bit of a nuisance.
I am so excited for this card. In fact, this pairs with the card I picked, which we'll get into later. If you decide to go the Prophet's Eidetic Memory route, which this really
Oh
works with
yeah.
because +1 will give you a counter, and those Eidetic Memory decks have a lot of flyers often, and then you're easily getting through. So we're going to pair this with the card I pick, put Eidetic Memory in. It might be my first deck, so be on the lookout for that. But I think this is going to be great. And to your point, we also got a Flying Lord. I don't know if it's good, right? The 3 mana white blue guy that gives your flying creatures +1/+1. But
Yeah.
when you pair this with a bunch of flyers, even in your Gix's deck, if you just pair this with a bunch of little 1-drop, 2-drop flyers, to your point, the ultimate seems out of reach. But if you delay playing this a little bit, you have 3 flyers out. You could get to the ultimate in 2 turns, right? Because
Oh
you
yeah.
attack it with 3/1/1 flyers, you +1, you're already at 7. You do that one more time, you -9. I mean, look, it's not going to happen all the time, but I think there will be decks and board states where you can get to that relatively quickly. And they're going to be really on the clock, at least if you have a bunch of small creatures.
Yeah, it's a 3 mana planeswalker as well, which people love those because sneak them in under counters and different things. I'll also say your call out of eidetic memory works pretty well here too, because one of the abilities does let you draw an extra card, right? In addition to making that thing unblockable that you just made bigger. So yeah, it's got a few different uses, right? This is the type of card I'm gonna have to like dig deep on, like all the things I could do with it. But yeah, this one's pretty wild. However, you did mention you have something that works with this in eidetic memory, so I'm kind of curious what that card is.
Well, works with it could be an overstatement. I fake have two cards. I might have to just break the rules. The one that I picked is Mischievous Mystic, a budget banger, two
Mm.
mana, human wizard, 2/1 flyer. And whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying. So I guess to my point, it does go with it. It goes with it in a very specific, way, I guess, in that Prophet's Eidetic is going to buff both of these. You're going to go off the rails. But I guess even outside of that, if you think about it, the Planeswalker triggers Mischievous Mystic, which then gives you a blue fairy, which then helps you get through to get more counters on the Planeswalker to get to its ultimate. So honestly, even without eidetic memory, you really could just have these two together. I mean, there's the Raven Man that everyone likes, where it's a 2 mana not flyer. It is
Yeah.
legendary, the black card. It's a 2/1, and it makes 1/1 flyers if they discard a card, which is way harder to
But
do.
those ones also can't block.
Yeah. So think of how much worse that card is than this card, and this is an uncommon. Also, human and wizard, which are semi-relevant creature types, not legendary. And if you just play this with eidetic memory and a bunch of card draw, you are going so wide, and you throw in that planeswalker. I mean, that feels unbeatable. Yeah.
You know what's fun about this when you're talking about Kaito is like you can play this on 2 and then Kaito on 3. And if you make this unblockable and draw a card, well, now you've drawn your second card for the turn. So you get to make the fairy that can still be left behind to block for Kaito, which is actually kind of cool. So these are not bad to have on back to back turns. So coincidentally, we just picked two cards that do actually work together and probably end up in the same deck. But, it just works out that way sometimes.
And I guess I did want to just give an honorable mention only in this one, just because I'm too excited about eidetic memory. Kiora, the Rising Tide, going to break the rules. And because I also thought that just goes perfectly with Mischievous Mystic. 3 mana, Merfolk Noble, rare, legendary. It's a 3/2. And when it enters, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. So it's going to trigger Mischievous Mystic. And whenever this attacks, if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, which is fairly easy to get because it's just cards, you may create an 8/8 octopus creature token that is legendary, so you can only do it once, but that's kind of a game winner. And this also goes with your card so well because you can make Kiora unblockable with
Yep.
Kaido to get in with this. Kaido's filtering to help you get to threshold, and they all go in eidetic memory. I had to bring it up. I'm so excited for that deck.
Yeah, this seems like it could be a lot of fun. Like this is the brewing part where you just go, man, all these cards are here. What do we end up actually sticking with at the end, right? So yeah, this will be a lot of fun for sure. So where does that bring us to? What do we got? We got red left?
I think
All
we're
right.
on red. Do we have red, green, and multicolored? I believe.
Okay. Well, red cards. This is one I think people are split on. And when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know. But then I slowly came around to like, you know what? I have a few uses for this card. So Chandra Flame Shaper, 5 colorless, red, 6 loyalty. So it already starts pretty high. You can +2, which is also really big. But with the +2, you get to add 3 red mana. You exile the top 3 cards of your library. Choose one. You can play that card this turn. The second ability is you +1. You get to create a token that's a copy of target you control, target creature, and it's gone at the end of turn. And then you can -4 to deal 8 damage divided any way you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers. So much stuff happening with this card. Like the first thing, the +2, already 2 loyalty is always good, but you get extra mana and it doesn't have a restriction on the type of card. You just look, exile the 3, and you get to play one. A lot of times with Chandras, it's been like an instant or a sorcery or something like that, right? Or a red card. Like this is literally just anything, and you have 3 spare mana. That's fantastic. Being able to copy something, probably going to be the least used version on this card. Not saying that you won't ever use it, because if you have something with a good enter the battlefield trigger, I mean, hell, I don't know, maybe you have a Overlord of the Boiler Bilges, right? Like that'd be fine. It gets to deal 4 damage and you get to swing with it or whatever. But the -4, I think, is really big, right? For 7 mana, you almost get a one-sided board sweeper. Because 8 damage is a lot. Like, you rarely is 8 damage not going to kill at least 3 creatures. I mean, I guess if it's like shield ridden something, you might only get 2. But That's a lot of damage to deal. And it's not that hard to just like do it every other turn, even because you start at 6, then you can +2. So now you're back to 4. You can do it again the next turn. So if you don't wipe everything out on the first go, 2 turns later, you just get everything else while you still have the rest of your board. And this feels like it can go in various types of control decks, whether that's, the big red planeswalkers deck. Like this will show up somewhere. I just don't know where yet.
Yeah, no, great pick. I mean, 7 mana is always a lot, but we have plenty of ways to get mana with Overlords, with Llanowar. I mean, I almost see this in a Gruul ramp deck at some level because the there's so many different top ends you can do now in standard, and a lot of them are creatures like Valgamoth and things that are really hard to get rid of. But because of that, and how many Reanimator and different strategies like that, people are playing a lot of target opponent sacrifices a creature, and there's a lot of removal that kills creatures. Some of it hits planeswalkers, but some of it doesn't. And this is one of those cards that just gets out. You can't kill it very easily, can't even wipe it, and it will run away with the game fast. I know I'm going to lose to this card. I'm like, it's too expensive, which I always say. And then people just beat me repeatedly with it because they delay the game. And we'll see. We'll
You know,
see
I,
if I can survive.
I think that's a good thing to talk about for a second because I think we look at a lot of cards and people always say, oh, it's 6 mana, it's 8 mana, whatever. But look around the landscape of what you have cast against you, right? We're playing 5 and 6 and 7 mana planeswalkers, right? We're playing Doppelgang that people always end up spending like 8 or 11 mana on, right? Like that's a thing. We have Breach the Multiverse. We have a Thales, whatever. Like we're casting these cards regularly in games, right? So when people always look and go, oh, 7 mana, that's unplayable. Like, is it though? Right? Like it's more about what am I getting for that 7 mana? And in this case, like I said, it might be a one-sided board sweeper. You might be playing 7 mana to wipe out 3 creatures. And then that's all you need to do. And now you just take control from there, right? That could be good enough. So yeah, we used to have a world where I think the top end wasn't playable, but we're still seeing a lot of playable big cards right now. So 7 or 8 mana, it's still a lot. You can't play a bunch of them in the deck, but I also don't think we need to be afraid to try to play them either.
Absolutely. All right. Well, on to mine. I'm going in the complete opposite direction. We could not be more opposite on what we picked because I picked a budget banger that has a great rate, and you picked an awesome planeswalker that's next level power. But I think this is going to be fun. Slumbering Cerberus.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
the Cerberus. Yeah.
Cerberus, 2 mana dog, not legendary. Some people love it when it's legendary, and I know there's legendary matters, but I always get sad when something's legendary. I want to play 4 of everything. And it's uncommon 4/2. This creature doesn't untap during your untap step, but it has Morbid. At the beginning of each end step, including opponents, if a creature died this turn, untap this creature. So what's interesting about this is a 2 mana 4/2 is a rate you just don't see. They're doing a lot of that, right? They put out a 3 mana 4/2 haste
Yeah.
recently. I mean, they do the 2 mana 3/2 Gruul haste guy that can even be a 4/3 with Delirium. They're raising I mean, it happens, right? They had 2/1s used to be good for 1 mana. Now they need to have the world on them. I think this is the next iteration of that because 4 power will get you to a lot of things, especially in Gruul. Garrick's Uprising, which cares about 4 mana, but there's just a bunch of creatures and things already that care. And actually, we will talk about one of them soon because it's my pick, where you need something with power 4 or greater. But what also is worth mentioning, 4/2, okay, they give you too good of a rate. There must be a downside. Kind of. This creature doesn't untap during its untap step. That's a downside. But it also in certain decks could be an upside because you can give this thing pseudo vigilance or untap at very weird times, right? Well, scratch that. You have to wait till the end step to actually untap it. I misread my own card. But at the same time, the turn you attack in with it, if you burn one of their 1/1s or they block something in combat and they don't kill this, all of a sudden this is untapped and has pseudo vigilance. So I'm not sure that's all downside.
Yeah, I think if you have a deck to support it, it could be worth playing. And interesting, Dev over at SBMTG, also a big fan of this card. So I think this is a Brewers card for sure that people are interested in. But yeah, I think it's being a 4-2 is interesting because you can't kill it with a cut down on turn 2. So I think that's worth considering. A lot of these cards we've talked about over these videos, we talk about, hey, sacrifice decks are eating good right now. Right? This is another one of those things where if you have a way to sacrifice the thing, cool. I'm going to attack with it, end step, sack some junky 1/1. Now I get to untap this and I get whatever value I was getting from sacrificing the other thing. Like, there's just a lot of cool stuff that these types of cards can allow. And honestly, even if you just block with it, a 4 power blocker is pretty big business, right? It takes a lot to get past that. So yeah, this card, while it does look kind of quirky because you can't untap it, there are a fair amount of ways to just untap a card. And then there's, not to mention, other cards that do just let you untap creatures, right? Like, so if you're playing any of those, then this gets a little bonus value anyway. So yeah, I could see some places where this might actually get played.
And I've been playing a lot of the 4/2, 3 mana fear of missing or fear of being hunted. And one thing people underestimate about these 4 power, 4/2s is you play a monstrous rage on these things. They get in for damage. They survive, and you're just, man, you are winning. Also, I
Mm-hmm.
have to just shout out because I made a whole video at one point about why disfigure is better than cut down. Here's another example. There's a lot of 4/2s these days, and you add that to all the mono red cards that care about how much power they have when they die, and disfigure, or the new stab, which is the exact same as disfigure but was printed here, so we'll have for 5 years. It 1 mana instant, gives a creature -2/-2. Look, at least in best of one, I'm saying play those babies, take out the cut downs. We may disagree, but that's my pitch.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. We're seeing a lot of disfigure being played already, so I don't think that's going to change anytime in the near future.
All
So what
right,
does
so I
that
think
bring us
we're
to? Green?
on to green.
Okay. Well, this one I feel a little sad because I feel like I sold out on this one. Like, this card's just good. And it's cute. So, Loot Exuberant Explorer. 2 colors and a green. It's a 1/4 Beast Noble Legend. You can play an additional land on each of your turns, and then you can pay 6 mana. So for 4 colorless, green, green, and tap it. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You can reveal a creature card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from among them, and it just comes onto the battlefield. Not tapped, just you get the creature. And then put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So there is so much going on with this card. First, it's a 1/4, so it's hard to deal with. It can block a lot. That's cool. It's 3 mana, so being a 1/4, it's still in cut down range. You got to just acknowledge that. But we also live in a world where Llanowar Elf exists. So you turn 1 Llanowar Elf, turn 2 this guy, play an extra land, and then you're untapping turn 3 with 3 lands in play, plus the Llanowar Elf and maybe another land. So, like, you're already kind of starting to take off to the races with just that. So that's a cool little situation. And then later in the game, you have this ability that's just going to go find creatures. And the cool part is this also isn't restricted to only being played as a sorcery or anything like that. So you don't even have to commit it to the board. You can just wait, let your opponent take their turn, end step. All right, I'm going to go search for something. So yeah, this overall is just a sweet card with a lot of stuff happening, and obviously going to be a fun commander card as well.
Yeah, if there's one card I left off my top 40 that I just put out that I read again and I said, "My God, it was this card," because like you said, I mean, look, there's so many things that want this. Even like the landfall ability from this and ramp will
Mm-hmm.
be enough, right? Well, maybe not enough, but I mean, you barely need anything more. And the fact this has this ultimate, which just is so good. I mean, it's going to get back all your overlords, right? It's going to get back all your overlords, the green overlord, and it's going to be amazing. Um, this is the count. If this is good, this is the counter argument to why you do play cut down and not disfigure.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fair.
so I guess there haven't been a lot of 1/4s or 2/3s that have been seeing a lot of play in standard. But if this does, I might have to eat my words.
Yeah, this card's crazy. Like, again, it's legendary, so you can't load up on them really. That'd be a bad move. But a couple of these in a deck, man, it could really do something. And, like we said, there's a lot of landfall stuff in this set. We've seen reprinted as well. So this is going to go right into those decks, possibly getting you multiple triggers in a turn. So yeah, lots of stuff. And, loot's cute. They can market the hell out of them. So why not? Put them on a good card finally.
Absolutely. Well, mine switching over, like I said, it's one that combos with my 4-2 that I just talked about. It is Sylvan Scavenging, a 3 mana enchantment rare. And at the beginning of your end step, choose one. I like that it is end step and not upkeep in some ways, but put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, or create a 3/3 green raccoon creature token if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. So, look, in terms of these 3 mana token creators, if this just said 3 mana, make a 3/3 every turn, that would be the most busted card in history. It doesn't. It's got, a fairly big hurdle you got to climb. A creature with power 4 or greater, not that big in green and not that big in Gruul. Like I just said, there's a 2 mana, one on curve with this. But what's nice is if you don't have a big creature, it'll still give you +1/+1 counters and then grow one of your creatures until it's a 4/4. And look, even if they kill one of your creatures, this does check at end step. So, you'll have another chance to play a creature. Creature lands, right? Crawling Barrens, buff it, keep growing it. You could just have a little creature land and enable it. I mean, there's some interesting plays. We'll see if this works out, but I'm definitely going to give it a try.
Yeah, I think the creature lands are a good way to kind of like ensure you can always get another body, which is pretty neat. I like the fact that this might even just go into a +1/+1 counter stack, right? That you don't even really care that you might just get a 3/3 as a bonus feature later, but you're getting to keep pumping your team and getting all those triggers, which I think could be really cool. And randomly, it makes a raccoon. Like, I don't know if that's going to be important, but usually it's like make a 3/3 green beast or whatever, right? Like, it's one of those things like when I read that, I'm like, okay, you chose for this to be a raccoon for a reason. Now, maybe it's just flavor because it's scavenging, right? Like it makes sense it might be a raccoon. But that's the type of thing I try not to forget of just like, okay, if I do some raccoon stuff or some theme deck stuff down the road, oh yeah, this card also makes raccoons, right? So it's that type of thing, that little stuff that's on a lot of cards in Foundation. You have to read very carefully because you can misread some of them, assuming they work certain ways. In this case, there's hidden creature types. Like there's a lot happening, and this card could fit a few different decks. I just, to your point, also have to be aware that sometimes it doesn't do anything, right? You have to have at least one creature to kick it off. But if you do, there is significant upside.
Absolutely. I'm pumped for it. I think we're on to our last one, right? Which is multicolored or colorless. We just did one category together. So, what did you pick?
This one, honestly, this is a card I read and then I literally stared at my monitor. I got up, took a quick walk, came back, looked at it again, and went, yeah, this card's dumb. But Coma, World Eater, 3 colorless, green, green, blue, blue. So another one for 7 mana. Maybe that was a thing for me today. It's a legendary serpent, can't be countered, which is awesome because you're investing so much mana. It has trample. You'll see why that matters in a second. And ward 4. So they have to spend, in most cases, at least 6 mana to kill this if they're targeting it. And then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you make 4 3/3 serpent creature token coils named Coma's Coil. It's an 8/12. It's so damn big. Like, why? Like, I get it. You need it to at least have a lot of power so it could punch through and maybe you get those coils. Makes sense. But 8/12 is so big for 7 mana, and it can't be countered, and it has trample, and it has ward 4. Almost playable if you never even have an ability to get the coils. That's just like fun added spice on top of everything else. Like, yeah, this card's crazy.
Yeah, and it's got colors that like to ramp, right? And delay the game too. I mean, Simic will get it there. The first thing I thought of this card, because my mind always goes there, is I forget that there's a bunch of Orzhov. So honestly, great for Magic, not giving it any white or black. Where I think 2 drops and the 3 mana Planeswalker. But there's a 2 drop, and there might even be multiples where you can pretty easily turn it into a copy of something in your graveyard until end of turn. And if you copy this and attack in and turn your 2 drop into this, even on turn 4, but you can do it on turn 3 pretty easily with that deck. I mean, you're getting through with damage and making 4 3/3s. Doesn't matter that it goes away after that. There might be some interesting little things there, but like I said, the mana is a little off. We're still gonna try.
Oh, I just realized. Remember the guy from Dustmorn, Kona, the Beastie, like getting to put this into play for free? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness! Like that would be insane.
On turn three with Llanowar elves now.
Yeah, that's so
Oh.
gross. Yeah, this thing. Honestly, I don't even know if they have another creature out. You can't even use like you have to sacrifice a creature thing, right? Like this is going to be really hard to deal with. If this comes down turn 4 or before, like that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with.
The only thing that's good is it does not have lifelink or vigilance. So your aggro deck will get one more swing in, hopefully.
Well, maybe,
which
but
goes a
if
long way.
it attacks and connects, there's now 4 blockers.
Oh, you're right.
Like this
Well, it
card,
doesn't have haste, though. It doesn't have haste.
it does not have
Oh,
haste.
no, but
No.
you're right. Oh, my God, you're right. Those all can block. That's my least favorite thing. It's fine when it's like, oh, you make a bunch of things that are tapped or even like small attacking creatures because you get that one more turn. But you're right. When they come in untapped, my God. All right, I'm
I
going to
don't
root
know
for this.
really why this wasn't like 8-8, you know, maybe a 10-8 or something like that, but an 8-12. Like you can't even affect like you have to gang block this with like 4 creatures in some cases to really get rid of it, which is just ridiculous.
And Ward 2, why did make it Ward 4? It's already in blue. You already have counter magic. Why you got to make it so hard to target? But I guess, look, I'll be playing black, and I guess we're going to play a lot of that 3-drop enchantment that gets rid of hexproof, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess that's the play. Although, because also one of my favorite cards traditionally is Furnace Reigns, which is a 3-mana sorcery, lets you steal a card and then attack in with it for one turn, and then it makes a treasure token. But I always played that against Atraxa and a bunch of fun things because you could just steal their big card.
Yeah,
But now they've got Valgamoth, which has Ward,
sure.
sacrifice 3 permanents. This has Ward 4. So I can't even steal their big things anymore. Oh, it's going to be painful, some of these when they get in.
Yeah, I don't know about this. I don't want to be playing against it. I know I'm going to, but man, this card is a wild magic card.
All right, on to our last card. We have Alicia, who laughs at fate. 3-mana Rakdos, legendary creature. I'm the only one out there that hates legendary, but I'm sad about that. Demon Warrior. It's a rare and 2/2. 3-mana 2/2s have to do a lot these days. This might do it because it has first strike, and whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And it has raid. At the beginning of your end step, if you attack this turn, not with this creature, just with anything, return target creature card with mana value less than or equal to Alicia's power from, and it could be Alesha. Do you know?
Yeah, it's Alesha, I believe.
Okay, Alesha's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. So the first turn, if they do not kill it and you attack with anything in Rakdos, which you should be doing, you'll get a 2-drop back. It kind of reminds me of the 3-mana white 3/2 that brought back a creature with mana value 2 or less when it entered. I forget.
Oh yeah.
But that one, like the other card couldn't attack until right at first, and it didn't do it every turn and scale.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I mean, I'm a big fan of Cunning Coyote that gives something haste. There's some ways to give things haste in here, and that would be on curve for this. I think this thing might run away with some games. It's another one of those cards where if you don't kill it, watch out.
Yeah, when I said earlier that like sacrifice decks are eating good, yeah, this falls in that same category because if you think about it, like you can just now start attacking with like your percussionist or whatever 1 or 2 mana thing you have, and you don't even care if it gets blocked and dies, right? Like, all right, I'm attacking with it. You're either blocking it or not. If it dies, great. I get the trigger from the ability. But then because I attacked that turn, I also get to replay it back out of the graveyard if there's nothing else there. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of crazy stuff this does. Now, admittedly, it's a 2/2 for 3 mana, so it dies to a lot of removal, like acceptable. But that's kind of what that whole sacrifice deck is anyway, right? It's a bunch of small things that are greater than the sum of their parts. So now, is this the card you're playing over some of the other stuff? Like, who knows? There's a billion choices right now. So maybe there's a few different builds. But yeah, this can find a home in a few different things. And if you don't deal with it, you're now dealing with all those little value creatures coming back over the course of the game.
And last point, it is a human, which there's the 2 mana. You'd have to throw some white in, but there's Caverns of the Souls and Secluded Courtyard now. The human that gives it +1/+0 and Ward 1.
Yeah.
And there's the Orzhov human that you can sacrifice an instant speed to give another creature, to give all your humans hexproof. That 2 mana human lord that also exiles the graveyard when it enters, which is good. So, I mean, we might have this humans deck where this thing is kind of unkillable when it enters, especially if you played the 2 mana human that you sacrifice an instant speed and to give another human hexproof, or the one that gives it Ward 1 and grows its power. On curve, I mean, there could be something here. We're going to see.
Yeah, it's cool, man. That's a good pick. I think it'll be fun. Like, it's the type of card you go like, it's kind of weak. But the minute it's across the table from you, you immediately go, well, now I got to kill that. Right. So if it's that threatening, there's probably something to it.
That's that outlaw lizard that draws cards.
Yeah.
Number of outlaws. The amount of times I've like, that card's terrible. I'm not playing it. And then they play it against me and I don't have removal and they draw 3 of my cards and I go, GG.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I think we wrapped it up. Like I said, check out POWRDRAGN if you haven't, and check out our other video on his channel where we went through the reprints that are bangers, guys, and are going to completely change the meta. But thanks again, man.
Hey, it was fun being here. And hey, hope everybody enjoys the channel and the video, and much success in the future.
Mythic! Mythic with a 4 rare deck. Let's go. Yeah! Smashing. Let's go.